and it looks like we're ready to begin. Thank you all for being here on this Shabbat when the cherry blossoms are full. So it's a good Shabbat in Seattle. I'll invite you to take a nice deep breath in and out, because on Shabbat, eternity utters a day.
Page 45. We're going to start with Yai Lai Lai. Yai Lai Lai, Yai Lai Lai, Yai Lai 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 Lai, Yai Lai Lai, Yai Lai 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 Lai, Yai Lai Lai. It's just Yai Lai Lai, Yai Lai Lai. Yeah, very good. Yai Lai 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 Lai, Yai Lai Lai, Yai Lai 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 Lai. A thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind and a joy in the trees. Shabbat arrives in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day, and eternity utters a day.
And if you're coming in, come close. Come on close.
Yai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai. You got this. Yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai.
Oh, eternity utters a day. Have we ever needed Shabbat Zachor, the Shabbat before Purim, the Shabbat before the holiday about joy? Have we ever needed it more than this Shabbat?
No.
I don't think so. It's so wonderful to see all of you here. I'm Rabbi Ruth Slotnick. I'm grateful to be by Rabbi Dana Benson's side. So grateful to Emma, to Sean, to Andy, our beautiful musicians, to Jamie, who allows us to experience this with our friends at home, to Louie and to Kim, who are greeting us. And let's make sure that the folks at home, I think this is the camera. I've been watching the last couple of Shabbatot, and I do think if you look over there, people will feel like you're actually seeing them. So let's just say Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Shalom, everyone. And with that said, tonight we have lots of great simchas to celebrate. Even though the world is still a broken place, we come into Shabbat knowing maybe next week we can bring some healing. So we're going to take a moment to wish one another Shabbat Shalom. I'll invite you to do that with the people who you're sitting near, but maybe also with people who you've never met before. So let's take a moment to wish one another a Shabbat Shalom. And so I do want to just acknowledge that when we come together for Shabbat, we create, as Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel has suggested, a cathedral, a home, a space in time, right here, right now. And as we create that space, we have to recognize that the land we stand upon is the land of the coastal Salish tribe, mostly the Duwamish tribe, and how grateful we are to be able to gather on Shabbat for this particular moment. And we're about to light the Shabbat candles, and you'll notice we have 3 candles. We have 3 candles because we started lighting the 3rd candle on the Shabbat after October 7th, when the hostages were taken, when the war began. And we acknowledge with that 3rd candle that the hostages have not been returned. And so we will light that candle with a recognition that our hearts are breaking for all of the civilians who are dying, whether they are in Israel or Gaza, but particularly that we want a peace that will return the hostages safely. With that said, it's also such a pleasure to invite up on this particular, how beautiful is that sound? Just to let you know, we have smachot, we have 2 simchas, 2 joys on this Shabbat. One is a baby naming, in case you didn't know. And so when you hear that sound, I want you to engage in that sound and hear it as a spiritual challenge to experience joy even in this broken world. You're a rock star. That's all I'm gonna say. But we have another simcha, another joy, which is that how many of you were members of Temple Beth Am in 2004 by raising hands? So in 2004, Temple Beth Am did something that no other synagogue in North America did, which was to create the Homeless to Renter program, what we call now H2R. 20 years of engaging in our community to help our neighbors who are unhoused. If you have been a member at any moment in your Temple Beth Am journey of H2R, I invite you to light the candles with us because you have been a light in this community. So I'll invite the H2R committee to help us light the Shabbat candles right now. And so that means up here. Do you feel up to it, sis? You want to try it? Do you feel up to it?
Yeah, I'll just go around.
Yeah, take your time. Yeah. So while everyone is coming up, I'm going to just share some thoughts. Because I will say that it teaches in the Talmud. Ooh. Feedback. Margot.
Oh, it's good to be here.
It's so good to see all of you. So I am so grateful to the H2R committee for being here. And in the Talmud it teaches, Rabbi Yirmiyah said, the one occupied with the needs of the community is like the one occupied in the matters of Torah. For our rabbis, to be occupied in the matters of Torah is to be, come close. And someone's going to have to actually light the candles. So come on, Sally. Come on, Fred. Come on, Urania. Come on, everyone. Come on close. We're going to act like we actually know each other and have been doing this work for 20 years together. So I want to say thank you to all of you for engaging in the needs of our larger community. It is engaging in the needs of Torah. So we're going to light the lights of Shabbat to begin with. And Sally Kinney is going to do the lighting. I hope we didn't give you the trick matches. That's the only thing I hope. There you go. And if you light each one, and then what we do is we bring that light into ourselves. Great, Urania. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go like this. And Rabbi Dana, will you lead us in the blessing?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
So I want to just repeat, thank you all for being a light to our community and to our Seattle community. For 20 years, 2 decades. Think about what Seattle was in 2004. For those of you who were here then, you know how different a community it was. You all have been occupied with the needs of not just our synagogue, but the unhoused in Seattle. We are so grateful that all of you will be here throughout Purim and from Purim to Pesach. So if people want to learn about new and exciting ways that you are extending your reach, thank you. And if any of you want to join in the H2R journey towards helping our unhoused neighbors, that would be wonderful. But this is a special Shabbat. It is Shabbat Zachor, the Shabbat of remembrance, the Shabbat of memory, the Shabbat right before Purim. So it is the Shabbat when we say thank you to all of you. How many of you were here in 2004? H2R. So particularly thank you. No good deed goes unpunished. I think Fred can attest to that. And so thank you all for spending 20 years in service to the unhoused and vulnerable in Seattle. You have each been a light in our community. You have each helped Temple Beth Am be a light in Seattle. And Rabbi Dana and I would like to offer to you now the Birkat Kohanim, the blessing. And I'm going to go over here, and Rabbi Dana is going to be over there. And we're going to offer you. And maybe if you all want to, because these are people in their Jewish journey that have said, this is what helps me understand why I am a faithful Jew in the world. They have helped the unhoused in our community. So maybe you all want to lift up your hands too, as
And
Rabbi Dana.
Ruth, in virtual space, we have Diane Bear, who also has been part of this for 20 years.
Thank you for reminding
and so
us.
on behalf of all, and all of the work you've all done. Yavrechech Adonai ve'yishmerecha.
To this, our H2R committee, may God bless and keep you always.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha.
And the light of the divine shines through you, and may it shine upon you and be gracious to you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yasen lecha shalom.
And as you move through the next 20 years of H2R, may God be with you on that journey as we help those who are vulnerable in our community, who are unhoused in our community, who need to know that their Jewish neighbors are there for them. And may God grant you and them peace always. And let us say,
Amen.
And so, Mazel Tov, and thank you all for 20 years of service. Really, the spirit of Temple Beth Am is walking off the bima right now as we enter into Shabbat, and I can't think of a more joyous way to enter into Shabbat. And so we say, L'cha dodi, come my friend. This is a hard world we live in. This is a beautiful tradition we've been given. Let's celebrate Shabbat together with the Chadodi, page 20. We'll sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9.
And this starts with some yai-lai-lais. דודי, יא לה 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 לקראת כלה, יא לה 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקבלה, יא לה 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 דודי, יא לה 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 לקראת כלה, יא לה 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקבלה. Verse 1. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת לתחילה. יא לה לה, יא לה 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 לחתי, יא לה 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 לקראת כלה, יא לה 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. יא לה לה, יא לך דודי, יא לה 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 לקראת כלה, יא לה 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, כי באורח אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. יא לה לה, יא לה 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 לך דודי, יא לה 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 לקראת כלה, יא לה 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 פני שבת נקבלה. Please rise and face the entrance as we go to the final verse. בואי ושלום עטרת גם בשמחה וצולה תוך אמונה עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי יא לה לה, יא לה לה לך דודי, יא לה 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 לקראת כלה, יא לה 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקבלה. יא לה 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 לך דודי. We continue with words of Shalom Aleichem. As Rabbi Ruth mentioned that it's a good time to have some Shabbat. We've been really needing it this week. And I think that that includes this concept of Shalom Aleichem, of bringing in these good angels and away some of the bad angels that I feel like maybe were haunting some of us this week. And so we'll sing those words of Shalom Aleichem. You can find them on page 24 and help groove with us on this beautiful melody.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Dai, 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 Lochem L'Shalom, Shalom, Lachem, Elyon, Melech, Malachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yai, 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 Teidchem l'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei
It is my distinct honor and pleasure to invite up that giggling noise, that giggling individual that you may have heard earlier in the service that Rabbi Ruth alluded to. Come on up, Eli, as well as your mom, Emily, and Dad, Hui, so that we can offer you a blessing. You can come right down, everybody get a good view. And bring up that talit that I know is so important. That was from your bat mitzvah, Emily. Whoop! It's all good, buddy. Wonderful. And so we have our crew together here. You can step in a little closer if you want. There you go. And you may notice that this baby is not 8 days old, or very big 8-day-old, but actually 1 full year old. Thank you for helping us do that. Yes. Perfect. Get everybody in. That's perfect. Beautiful. It's great. And so it's an honor to get to give you your Hebrew name amidst Jewish community that you will be known as in Jewish community. And that is going to be Eli Rachamim, the one that is God's blessing, the one that is filled with compassion. And we hope that, while that may be a lot to take on at 1 year old, we hope that you will grow into that name, into all of those values. Did you want to share anything about the choice of the name?
Rachamim we were talking about with you, Rabbi Dana, and it means womb, and we had Eli via surrogacy, and so it's just a really special, miraculous situation to have that gift, and he is definitely a gift.
Amen. Amen. And so it's an honor to give you this blessing in this name as we shake you and give you a little bit of a good shake there. I love that, love it. That's the most sacred thing I've seen all day. Right? Like, how beautiful is that? And so I get to offer you this name as part of this community, as part of the Jewish community. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu kayem et hayeled hazeh la'aviv u'li'imo vayikra shmo beYisrael Eli Rachamim
בין סביה לאה והוא ישמח האב ביוצא הלצב ותגל עמו בפרי ויתנה זה הקטון גדול יהיה וכשם שנכנס לברית כן ייכנס לתורה ולחופה ולמעשים טובים. And with that, you are a blessing into our community, and we say Siman Tov u'Mazel Tov all together to celebrate all y'all. Siman Tov u'Mazel Tov u'Mazel Tov Siman Tov u'Mazel Tov u'Mazel Tov Siman Tov Yehelanu. Siman Tov u'Mazel Tov u'Mazel Tov Siman Tov u'Mazel Tov u'Mazel Tov Siman Tov u'Mazel Tov u'Mazel Tov Siman Tov Yehelanu. Yehelanu Yehelanu u'lechol Yisrael. Yehelanu Yehelanu u'lechol Yisrael. Yehelanu Yehelanu u'lechol Yisrael. Yehelanu Yehelanu u'lechol Yisrael. May you continue to go forward as a blessing to your siblings, to your parents, to your grandparents, and may you be filling the world with joy and compassion each day. Together we say, Amen. You may be seated. Of course. And a pleasure, right? How much better, as Rabbi Ruth was saying, could this Shabbat get? We already got to have so many smechot opportunities. And so as we enter into the Baruch Hu as one community, I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we take in this space of being together where we celebrate each other and hold each other. As Baruch Hu is on 28. Yai, dai, dai, yai, dai, 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 yai, dai, 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 yai, dai, dai, yai, dai, 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 yai, dai, 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 yai, dai, 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 yai, dai. Yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai Baruch Hu. Baruch Am Vaed Baruch Adon Vaed Yai dai dai Yai dai 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 Yai dai 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 dai. You may be seated. We turn to page 30, acknowledging that we've had so much sunshine this past week, but we've also needed this rain as well, I think. Well, why not? And as we are here in this moment, we have sunshine still, which is so beautiful. I know it's because of daylight savings and all of that, but it still feels so lovely to actually have this light as we transition from day into evening. So I invite you to read along with me on the bottom of 31, the kind of second paragraph there. Please join with me. This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, my sibling, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it, we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, my sibling, or cross over? Baruch ta Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim. One of the things I love about Shabbat is getting to see everybody. It feels like every week when we're here together, it's kind of like a family of a certain type. And seeing your faces and seeing who's going to be walking in and the surprise of not always being sure who it's going to be is one of the things that warms my heart. And it's one of the ways that I feel that sense of palpable love in the world is by being here and being present with you on Shabbat. And so as we move to the words of Ahavat Olam on page 32, I hope that you also can take a moment to feel that space of love and connection and of being here, of groundedness, of purpose, as we receive that sense of love from the universe, from the world, from each other.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Hafta Torah u'mitzvot Hukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu B'shokbeinu uvkumeinu Nasiach bechukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha Uv'mitzvotecha Leolam va'ed Ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu ve'orech yameinu uvahem nehege yomam v'layla ve'ahavtecha letasir mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Page 34, 35, the words of our Shema. The reminder that you're doing everything that is needed of you in this moment. You're here. All that is needed is for you to be. You are enough. We are enough, just as we are. If it's your custom to rise for the Shema, I invite you to do so. If it's your custom to sit for the Shema, we join together. You may be seated. We continue on the next page, 36, with the Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת הדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
And so, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, who is like you, O God? We move from this beautiful image of love to this expression of liberation. Thus it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. And now we move into like this, one of the most beautiful blessings, I believe, of the evening, the Hashkivenu prayer. I'll invite you to join me at the bottom of page 43 before we sing this blessing. Give us a place, please join me. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Words over us go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Please bring that music into us as we say the Chatima. Baruch atah Adonai, hapurei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim.
We're just going to let that warm us up a little bit before we even begin. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom vehamidenu shomreinu lechaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom vehamidenu shomreinu lechaim Hashivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom vehamidenu shomreinu lechaim Hashivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom vehamidenu shomreinu lechaim Ushor tzeiteinu
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom vehamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom vehamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Vehamidenu shomreinu lechaim.
That sense of the Sukkot Shalom, that shelter of peace around us, we rise in body or spirit for the Tefillah, the Amidah, the standing prayer, page 46.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up our lips that our mouths may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'koneh HaKol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot, Umevi Geula livnei v'neihem, Lema'an Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah gibor leolam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atarav lehoshia, Mashiv haruach umorid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofech olim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishene afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umidom elach, Melech memit umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lechayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, Ukedoshim bechol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. We take the next few moments to pray quietly, either using the words on the page up and through page 62, or, if you're so ready and willing and vulnerable, the meditations of your own heart. We'll join back together in beautiful music in just a few moments. Whenever your prayers are completed, I invite you to take a seat.
Yasher Koach. We continue with thinking of those who are in need of healing, whether they're here in person, whether they're far away across the world, whether they're experiencing injustices of oppression, injustices of the heart, or whether it's physical need, whether they are someone that's very close to us, or whether they're someone who we aren't sure that we even know, we can offer that help, that love, that sense of connection to anyone who needs that healing. So as I glance around the room at this time, I invite you to please share aloud any names that you're thinking of who are in need of that sense of connection, that sense of healing. We hold all those names in our heart as we join together for the words of Misha Berach. You can find them on the screen. And some of them on 253 as well. Sheberach Avoteinu Avraham Yitzchak veYaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel veLeah Hu Yevarech veYirafeh et hacholim Mi sheberach avoteinu Avraham Yitzchak veYaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel veLeah Hu Yevarech veYirafeh et hacholim El narfanala El narfanala El narfanala El narfanala Mi sheberach avoteinu Avraham Yitzchak veYaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel veLeah Hu Yevarech veYirafeh et each know a refuah shlema, a full healing of body and spirit, soon and in our time. Together we say,
Amen.
Amen.
As we come out of this prayer for healing, I want to name that we're in a really weird moment in Jewish history. Really. Since October 7th, we are in a unique moment that's so painful, where there's so much suffering of so many innocent lives. And here we are, Shabbat Zachor, the Shabbat of remembrance, the Shabbat of acknowledging this heroic story of Purim, this story that commands us to experience joy at this particular moment in the year. How do we do that? How do we do that when the world is such a broken place? Well, as luck would have it, you'll be shocked to know that the Torah portion helps lead the way out, this week's Torah portion. It doesn't happen every year. This year, Purim's kind of at a weird moment. And this week, Shabbat Zachor begins with the very first Torah portion of the book of Leviticus. Everyone's favorite book of Torah. Can I just say that, right? If you don't know what the book of Leviticus is all about, if you like, herds, if you like goats, if you like chickens, if you like grain, that's all brought to the Ohel Moed, the tent of meeting, the place, the Mishkan, the place where God comes to meet with our ancestors, and that's where they offer up these korbanot, what we translate in English as sacrifices, but really in Hebrew means those acts that we do that draw us closer to the divine. That's the book that we're starting in this really, and so P.S., there's a commercial here. Come tomorrow night at 5:45, 6-ish, for our adult, we're gonna have a wonderful adult Purim spiel tomorrow night. Come on Saturday if you want to see the little ones having so much fun in bouncy houses and whatnot, and if you want to know about H2R's pathway from Purim to Pesach, that's what I invite you all to do. But tonight, I want to be like in Shabbat. I want to be in this Shabbat Zachor, this moment when we're reading these very first words from the book of Leviticus, everyone's favorite Torah portion. And Leviticus is, as I shared in my, which I'm sure you all have seen and memorized, in my Shabbat video of earlier today, I talked about, maybe you haven't, but what I just want to say is that Leviticus, which is also known as Vayikra in Hebrew, it's right in the middle of the Torah. And it is obscure. It is about animal sacrifice and other kinds of sacrifices. But it also has this incredible ability to create structure for our ancestors about how to create sacred community in a world that feels like it's chaotic. That doesn't seem irrelevant in our day either. And so I want to just talk a little bit more about this Torah portion and what we can learn from it, both about, not just about the Torah portion, but about what's asked of each of us. Maybe we're not Moses, maybe we're not Esther, but then again, maybe we are. And I would argue to all of you who are here tonight and all of you who are at home, that each one of us has Moses and Esther within us. So I'd like to just, I have a little slideshow for you. And so Jamie, thank you so much. I'd like to show you the very first words of this week's Torah portion in our slides. If Jamie, if the technology works, if it doesn't, I'll describe it to you. Do, 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 do. Jamie, should I just describe it? Would that be better? I can show you. Oh, brava! Bravissima, as they say in Hebrew. Bravissima, Jamie. Thank you so much. So, so these are the very first words of the book of Leviticus. And what the very first words mean is how Leviticus begins. Adonai called to Moses and spoke to him from the tent of meeting. But I want to ask you all, this is I have two, maybe three favorite teachings from the book of Leviticus. We'll talk more about that as the weeks come by. But can someone tell me what they see? So you see a highlighted word there. You don't need to know Hebrew. That word is vayikra. Vayikra means, and God called. This is the very first word of the book of Leviticus. You don't need to know Hebrew, but there are 5 Hebrew letters in that very first word. What do you notice about the last letter that is different? Anyone, just call it out. It's small. Who said that? Well, you don't have to point yourself out. Never mind. Absolutely, it's small. Every single Torah scroll in every single synagogue or other sacred space that Torahs may reside has a small aleph, vayikra. God called to Moses and said to Moses at the tent of meeting, at the place where our ancestors came together for sacred community. And the question is, why is there a small aleph there? Why is that there? I have to tell you, my friends, I love being Jewish, but it is a weird thing to be. Judaism is a very strange faith. Judaism teaches that our greatest leader who ever existed, Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses our teacher, Moses our prophet, Moses our leader, was the most humble human being who ever lived. And the small aleph there, we're told, is a compromise between Moses and God. Moses said, I don't want to come to you. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there. No, 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 no. And God said, no, I need you here. And they compromised. And Moses got it. Moses agreed to have the smaller aleph. And what our teachers teach us is that small aleph represents that Moses, of all human beings who ever lived, embraced anava. Anava, we translate in English as humility. I want you to feel whatever you're feeling when you hear the English word humility, and I want to expand what humility might mean for you. Because as Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav has taught, humility is not about making ourselves smaller, but it is about recognizing the space we need to make for each other. And Nachman of Bratslav taught, when you see an increase in humility in the world, you can look forward to the imminent arrival of the Mashiach. The imminent arrival of the Messiah will come when each of us recognizes that we have within us anava, that soul trait, that quality of humility. And so I want to share a little more about humility. And so if you'll just turn to slide 2 for a quick second, Jamie. Thank you. So the aleph is smaller. Even though Moses attained the greatest heights ever reached by a human being, he was unmoved by that fact and humble as ever. When a person stands on top of the mountain, he does not boast about how tall he is, because it is the mountain that makes him tall. By the same token, what Moses recognized is that whatever he accomplished was because of the spark divine within him and of his relationship with the divine. What Moses recognized was that he was a vessel for bringing in a sense of healing into this world. So if we'll turn, and that sense of healing is what we understand as humility. Next slide, please. So the midah, the soul trait of humility, we hear humility, and in English, I think we hear humiliation. I think we hear like, you have to lower yourself, make yourself something you're not. Rabbi Alan Marinus has brought in an incredible teaching of Musar, which is about a spiritual path of cultivating soul characteristics. And what he defines the midah, the soul trait of humility to be, is about occupying a rightful space, neither too much nor too little, focusing neither on our own virtues nor, and this is a big piece, on the faults of others. Proper humility means having the right relationship to self, giving self neither too big nor too small a role in your life. Being humble doesn't mean being a nobody. It just means, this is so Jewish, it just means being no more of a somebody than you ought to be. You know, I love that. I think that's what anava is. I think that's what Moses recognized. And Moses didn't always have that. I want to remind you, we met Moses as a baby who was sent down a river. And one of the first acts that we see Moses do, we forget this sometimes when we're trying to lift up, but Moses kills a man. He kills a man because he believes that that man was doing something wrong. And he was. He was oppressing the Israelites there. But to kill a human being means that maybe you weren't actually fully embracing who you are. Perhaps you weren't occupying a rightful space. I think Moses needed to learn about anava in his relationship with God. And what Alan Marinus suggests is that humility, anava, is on a spectrum between self-debasement and self-aggrandizement. It's right there in the middle. It's aligning perfectly, taking our rightful space, not focusing too much on our own virtues, not focusing too much on others' faults. And what I'd like to suggest to you, though, Moshe Rabbeinu was the great role model for anava, but not the only role model for anava. And I am so grateful that this year, Vayikra, this Torah portion, falls right before we celebrate Purim, the holiday where we celebrate another incredible Jewish hero who embraces anava. And before I tell you who that is, I want to tell you that I learned this lesson from Rabbah Sarah Hurwitz. Has anyone heard of Rabbah Sarah Hurwitz? Sarah Hurwitz is the first female Orthodox rabbi. She works with Rabbi Avi Weiss, who I had the blessing of working with when I was in New York, an Orthodox rabbi in Riverdale. But Rabbah Sarah Hurwitz is also the head of the Maharat, Yeshivat Maharat, which ordains Orthodox women to become leaders in the Jewish world. And Rabbi Sarah Hurwitz has lifted up Esther as the prime example of what it means to embrace anava and be a leader in a different way than Moses. Moses, I would say on that spectrum, as Rabbi Alan Marinus has talked about, from self-debasement to self-aggrandizement, maybe in Moses' early years, he was on the self-aggrandizement level, right? Like if you murder someone, you're thinking you're God, right? Not great. I would suggest that maybe Esther was in the self-debasement category. Esther was like, who am I? Who am I? I'm just Hadass. I'm just Hadassah. Most of Esther's life, she followed the instructions that she was given. She was Hadassah, which we're told are connected to Hadass, myrtle trees. It's about being righteous and standing up, upright and whatnot. And when Mordecai said to her, look, you're going to go to the palace, you can't show who you are, she transformed her name to Esther, which is also known as Hester, about hiddenness. There was something that Esther, in the world in which she lived, as a Jewish woman, where it was dangerous to be a Jewish woman, felt like she needed to hide her actual identity, and so she became Esther, hiddenness. But the secret about Esther is, as we learn in Torah, that God also identifies as Esther. God says, Ba'anochi haster astir, I shall surely hide myself. Esther didn't realize that Esther had the spark of the divine. Esther was too humble, didn't see it, but as Rabbah Sarah Hurwitz, the very first Orthodox female rabbi to ever live in the history of the Jewish people, wrote this. Thank you, Jamie. Tina Fey, exactly who you'd expect the rabbi to talk about when talking about Esther, writer and comedian, writes in her book, Bossy Pants. I love that. That fundamental to Tina Fey's success is the courage to say yes. She derives this posture from a core of improvisation. I don't know how many of you have done improv or seen improv, but there is a cardinal rule of improvisation, and that is to agree. Always agree and say yes. Start with a yes and see where that takes you. She goes on, Tina Fey goes on to explain that the second rule of improvisation is not only to say yes, but to say yes and. That's how improvisation works. Agree to do something outside of your comfort and then build upwards to succeed. Esther started in a place, I would argue, of hiddenness and self-debasement, but recognized that she was in a position to transform the Jewish world in which she lived. For Esther, her yes and comes in the Megillah when Mordecai sends a message to warn her that her time has arrived to step forward and save the Jewish people. For such a moment of this, you have risen to leadership. Thank you so much, Jamie. I'm done with the slides. That is the beauty of the story of Purim. The story of Purim is all about reversals and removing masks and recognizing the true heroism that each of us has within us. It is hard to imagine celebrating Purim in this very, very broken Jewish world that we live in. And yet, I would argue that with role models before us, the role model of Moses, who was able somehow to overcome and be humble in the face of God, with role models like Esther, who was able to overcome and stand up and meet the moment that she lived in. I would argue that this year, more than ever, we as a sacred community need to celebrate Purim, celebrate the joy of Purim, the joy of recognizing, as Rabbi Alan Moranis has said, that we have a right to occupy our rightful space, neither too much, like Moses, nor too little, like Esther, to focus neither on our own virtues or the mistakes and faults of others. It just means being no more of a somebody than we ought to be. In this strange, weird world we're living in Jewishly, may each of you have the humility of Moses and of Esther, and may each of us have the courage of Moses and Esther to enjoy the spirit of Purim, which commands us to be joyous even the face of heartbreak and brokenness. Ken Yehi Ratzon. That's my prayer for us on this Shabbat. And with that said, we're going to continue with our mourner's Kaddish, I think. And so I'd like to share a beautiful prayer that I think speaks to this idea that when we're alive, it can feel hard to know what is exactly the right space to occupy. But before we are born and after we die, we're part of all space everywhere. As Yehuda Amichai has said, open, closed, open. Before we are born, everything is open in the universe without us. For as long as we live, everything is closed within us. And when we die, everything is open again. Open, closed, open. That's all we are. And so on this Shabbat Zachor, this Shabbat of remembrance, we are remembering in this period of Shiva, Charles Rosenberg, brother of Morris and brother-in-law of Gail. We're also remembering in this period of Shilashim, Julie Shapiro, wife of Shelley Cohn, mother of Eli and Leah McClintock Shapiro, Amy Gottlieb, wife of Stephen, mother of Tori, daughter of Pearl, sister of Rochelle, grandmother of Cecilia, also known as Foxy and Miriam, and Eduardo del Madrid, brother-in-law of Fred Finkelstein. We're also remembering at this time these yahrzeits: Herbert Ash, Vladimir Becker, Gabby Bell, Martin Benson, Louis Bernstein, Pearl Chasnoff, a longtime member and a founder of this community, Molly Cohn, who has written incredible histories of Seattle Jewish life, Manuel Chrysostomo, Ethel Dickerson, Philip Epstein, Jean Esch, Joseph Beery, Manuel Feynman, Helene Flappin, Richard Friedenrich, a longtime member and a past president of this community, Eleanor Genitosio, Rachel Hakmon, Sylvia Homburg, Alan Harrison, Louis Hott, Peter Klein, Balin Kuch, Shirley Meltzer, Dave Milligan, Ralph Otterman, Norma Pass, Harvey Picker, Bobby Japka, Peter Reese, Barbara Roberts, Peter Salzer, Jerome Schur, Carol Slagle, Renee Seufer, Israel Stern, Sadie Wenner. I also invite you to share out loud the name of anyone that you'd like to include, maybe someone whose name I mispronounced or someone who has a relationship close to you. And as we say this, we recognize that our hearts are broken for all of the Israeli civilians who have died in the war in Israel and Gaza, and for the innocent Palestinians who have died in the war in Israel and Gaza. Please share any names that you'd like. I invite you, if you're mourning someone who died in the last week or the last month or the last year, to please rise. Or if you're here tonight observing a yahrzeit, to please rise. And then as one community, let's rise with the mourners among us to keep the legacy and memory of their loved ones alive on this Shabbat Zachor, the Shabbat of remembrance. The Mourner's Kaddish is on page 294. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divrach chirute v'amlik malchute, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dekol Beit Yisrael, b'agala uv'izman kari v'yimru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mivarach Le'olam Olmei Olmaya. Yit Barak v'yishtabak v'yit Pa'ar v'yit Ramam v'yit Naseh. V'yit Hadar v'yit Taleb v'yit Halal Shmei Dekudasha B'rechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tus bechata v'nechemata. Damiran bi'alma v'yimru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba min Shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel with all who dwell on earth. V'yimru Amen. Zikronam livracha, may their memories forever be a blessing. Amen. Please be seated. Oh, thank you. Whoops. Whoa. Yeah, everything's going. Everything's going here. Thank you, Rabbi Dana. So, I know some of you, we don't take attendance at Shabbat services, but we kind of take attendance at Shabbat services. So I know some of you haven't been around. We're still figuring it out since the pandemic. And so I just want to share that we do this one thing now that's my favorite thing about Shabbat services that has nothing to do with the prayers. It has to do with sharing our simchas. And what I love about this is it's bringing in a little bit of Purim throughout the year. And so we're going to ask you, if you have had a joyous event, like maybe a grandchild or something, if you've had a joyous event happening, to please share it with us, because a joy shared is a joy that gets expanded. And I do want to begin with saying thank you to all of the members of H2R who are here. That is a joy that gets, that just keeps on giving. So thank you all for being here. So anyone want to share? It could be something big. It could be something small. We'll invite you to share, and please share your name out loud. And if you'd like to, your pronouns as well.
Veronica, she, her, and today I had someone over and chaotic 2.5 hours, but we made like 60-something hamantaschen.
What flavors?
Oh, marmalade, strawberry jam, Nutella, and Nutella with a chocolate chip, and the classic poppy seed.
Survey says good answer. I saw a hand up over here, my friend. I have to say, this is one of my bat mitzvah students who is about to graduate high school. Will you share your name?
My name is Grace, and I was accepted to UW for the pre-health science program. I was accepted into UW for the pre-health science program, and I am going to go there.
And we're so grateful that you're going to stay in Seattle, too. Wonderful. Any other joys to share? Thank you. And I just want to say mazel tov to any new grandparents among us.
My name is David Hoffman. I celebrated a birthday a week or so ago, but best of all, it's always followed by Pie Day, so I can have guilt-free pie 2 days in a row.
Wonderful. Was it a milestone?
No.
Not a milestone. Yes. And if you'll just share your name, and then we'll get to you, young lady next.
My name is Fred, and I use he, him pronouns, and my wife Mary is here with me, and today is our son's birthday. So happy birthday, David, whose Torah portion was Vayikra.
Oh. And who got married last year and has brought a lot of simcha into your wonderful Mazel Tov. Mazel Tov.
My name is Gail Picker, and my daughter, Jeannie, got married on Saturday.
Oh, that is a real simcha. I'm so glad to hear it. Mazel Tov.
My name is Kyle, and I just wanted to say it's a simcha to be here. I was a bat mitzvah here in 1998, but I've been in the promised land of New York City for the last 22 years. I'm visiting for work, and I have a novel coming out next year where a big scene is set in this shul, because it's the only one that I remember from childhood. And it's nice to be here. I'm actually in Philadelphia now, but it's fine.
What was the question? Book signing. We'll talk.
And
we'll talk.
I will say that Kyle has a great book that we have in our library. Aiden becomes a brother, sister, brother. Right. Thank you. I was gonna say, I was like, I know I'm gonna mess this up. Aiden becomes a brother, and I highly recommend it. It's a great book. We've read it to our kiddos in the GOM.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so, just to make you feel like you're back on the East Coast, we'll bring you to the book signing. We'll talk about it. It'll be wonderful. Rabbi Dana, will you get us started on the blessings?
Page 5, as we join together for our sanctification of all these joyful events, including this Shabbat Zachor, this meaningful Shabbat prior to Purim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim ve'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat lechaim.
And I'm going to invite all of you who are comfortable to do so to maybe, you all look so comfortable, and we're going to be dancing and drinking and having fun tomorrow night. So, I'll just hold it up here. And if you want to put up prayer fingers like Rabbi Dana's doing, that's great. As we say,
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz v'te'avon. And as Rabbi Ruth makes that a kosher blessing by taking a bite, we continue and close with those shalom words and hopes for peace, page 343. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yoshvei tevel ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen.
ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
May you find strength and peace on this Shabbat Zachor, and come to the Purim Spiel tomorrow night. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat.